Yesterday we got to hear from 5 different faculty members across campus about their teaching and research. If you'd like to watch those anytime, they are posted on our YouTube channel, Oregon Welcome. Each Friday this summer we will be offering several interest sessions focused on helping our new Ducks and their supporters get to know more about the tons of resources, programs, and services we have on campus to help you be successful. Today's presentations feature information on Pathway Oregon, mental health services and resilience, PE and recreation, and earlier we had a broadcast around protecting the flock, around prevention and safety services on campus. If you're a student watching in Zoom right now, I encourage you to use the Q&A feature to ask your questions. Staff are answering there, and some of your questions will be answered live on camera once the presenters are done. If you're a parent or family member watching in Facebook, we also have staff answering questions on that platform. In a minute, I will turn things over to our presenters who will share information with you. When they are done with their presentation, we will have time for a live Q&A on camera, so please keep those questions rolling. At this time, I'm pleased to welcome Tony Forbes-Berg and Chris Michaels from the University Counseling Center. They're here to discuss mental health services and student resilience. Hi, Tony and Chris, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks, Cora, and hi, everyone.
Go ahead and take it away.
I think it's you.
Hi everyone, I am Dr. Tony Forbes-Berg and I'm a senior staff psychologist at the University of Oregon. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am also the alcohol and other drugs coordinator for our center and the director of our Collegiate Recovery Center. A bit more about me. I am originally from Nassau, Bahamas, a tiny little country in the Caribbean. And one thing that I just really love about the work that I get to do, I really enjoy talking to students, helping them think about and work on building healthy relationships with substances that they may be using.
And I am Dr. Chris Michaels. I'm also a senior staff psychologist at the Counseling Center. My pronouns are he, him, his. In addition to my role as a psychologist, I'm also the coordinator of our Gender Support Services team. I'm originally from Illinois. I've lived in a number of places in the country. One thing I really enjoy about my work is supporting students' growth. I also like supporting future psychologists in their training.
So today we're really excited to talk to you about a few different things. We want to give some context into what the college students' experience of mental health may be here at U of O. We also definitely want to talk about all of the services that we provide to our students, but also to parents and families who care a lot about their students. We want to highlight the UO Counseling Center's diverse staff and all of the different specialty areas that those staff members provide to our students and parents and families. And we also want to increase a bit of the understanding of why students may want or need access to the Counseling Center, and definitely how to get started if a student decides that they could use some of our services in the future. We all have mental health. I'm so glad that you all are here today, and we will be talking about the benefits of our services for all of our students. Just like we all have physical health and physical well-being, we also could really benefit from paying attention to caring to our mental health and emotional well-being, and that's our role here on campus, to help support students in that journey.
To help you all get a sense of mental health on college campuses, and at UO specifically, we wanted to share some data with you. The first piece of data is that 78% of clients at the Counseling Center endorse that mental health concerns have affected their academic performance at UO. You all are coming to college to learn a lot, and ultimately get a degree. And so when you think about the impact that your mental health could have on your academics, it can be really significant. Also, 38% of clients endorse that their concerns have affected their ability to remain a student at the university. So again, just highlighting the significant impact that mental health can have on students globally, including their ability to stay students at the university. In addition to that, some broader information is that 75% of lifetime mental health conditions are diagnosed before the age of 24. So if you think about the average age of a college student, a lot of the time, the first time a person might be diagnosed with a mental health condition would be while they're in college, and perhaps at the counseling center if they reach out to us for services. Also, 73% of college students living with a mental health condition had a mental health crisis on campus. So what that can tell you is that just going to college doesn't mean that your mental health won't impact you on a daily basis. And that there can be very significant and serious situations that arise where you would need some additional support.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. In addition, we'll throw some more data at you all. Some of the primary concerns of students in the year 2018 to 2019 are up on the screen for you there. The top ones absolutely are anxiety and depression. Our students have, and students all over the country have a lot on their plates and are either coming in with or developing some primary concerns related to anxiety and depression, relationship problems, stress, family, and as you can see, it goes down the list there. So there's a wide range of the concerns that students are facing and that they can absolutely get help with us at the Counseling Center for.
Oops. So the next thing we want to talk about is stigma, and what we mean about stigma when we're speaking about mental health is really the fear of negative perceptions or evaluations due to a person's mental health condition. And so there's a graph here where you can see a pretty big discrepancy between individuals' fear that they would be perceived negatively for having a mental health concern or seeking help from a mental health professional versus their personal stigma. So you can see the personal stigma has been much lower all the way from 2007 up to 2018. But one of the significant things to note is that perceived stigma can be a really big factor in whether a person decides to actually seek out help. Interestingly though, more than 80% of UO students have said that they would consider seeking help from mental health professionals if bothered by a problem. And over the past 10 years, we've actually seen a pretty significant increase in utilization of counseling center and campus mental health resources. But with the discrepancy and stigma that exists between personal stigma and the stigma that we fear from others, it really speaks to the importance of us having conversations about mental health openly and having professionals like us speak up with you about mental health conditions as well. Again, we want to talk a little bit more about concerns that are more specific to the student body at the university. So first, you can see that academic stress is one of the main things that students come in to talk to us about, and that makes a lot of sense. College can be very stressful if you think of experiences with midterms, finals, signing up for too many credits and getting in over your head are all things that can cause a significant amount of stress. But in addition to that, there are a lot of things that can influence a student's stress levels, like difficult or unexpected life experiences. That could be anything from moving away from your family or community for the first time, adjusting to living in the dorms, developing new friendships, or even unexpected life experiences like the loss of a family member. One thing that we know is that anxiety and depression are two of the most common concerns that people come to therapy for. and they can really pose a significant burden on a person's academics and academic performance. In addition to that, things like cultural identity and trauma can play a big role. Trauma being anything from interpersonal violence to abuse or assault. And when students transition to college, there's a lot more freedom, which is great in a lot of ways, but that also means that many students are, for the first time, kind of grappling with developing a healthy relationship with alcohol and drugs, and that's often something that we talk with students about. Finally, I wanted to mention body image and disordered eating. There are a lot of pressures from society to appear in some pretty specific ways. And this can also be a significant stressor for college students. One of the things that we regularly talk with students about is their body image and the kinds of things that they do to try to change their body image, including disordered eating, which could be anything from really severe calorie restriction to over-exercising or even purging to try to get rid of calories before your body could use them. I also wanted to, as we're talking about this, provide a little bit of a story that can demonstrate maybe what the work actually looks like and what your experience might be like if you were to seek out counseling center services. So in my role as a gender support services co-coordinator, I work with a lot of students on identity development concerns when they are coming to college. And I can think of a student that I worked with whose first time talking about their identities was actually with me in my therapy office. And this person also had a lot of concerns with depression and anxiety. And one of the things that was really meaningful to me was to help the student see how their concern with their identity development was actually really linked to their anxiety and depression concerns. And as I was able to support them in exploring their identity, developing a community, disclosing identities to family, they were really able to experience a lot more support around them than they anticipated. And surprisingly enough, we started to see the anxiety and depression concerns improve, which ultimately helped their academic performance, their enjoyment of their college experience, and really their success during their first year at the university.
That is such, and I'm so glad you shared that story, Chris, and that's really cool to hear about the work that you're doing, and especially as the gender support co-coordinator.
Yeah,
that's
thanks.
A pretty special position and special role, and something that we offer here that isn't present in a lot of different places. So that's really cool. Thanks for sharing. I can definitely talk some more about our counseling services that we offer. We're here when you need us at the counseling center, and we're here and we show up in many different ways and in different places too. Generally we start with our in-person drop-in, and whenever our counseling center is open, and we're on the second floor of the health building here on campus, whenever our center is open, our students can stop by, meet with someone. They're greeted by our front desk folks who are wonderful and friendly and really helpful. And when we have drop-in services going, they can meet with a therapist that day, that morning or afternoon. With the changes that UO and other universities have made for on-campus services and providing more services to students remotely, we introduced teletherapy this year, which has actually been a really awesome introduction and has opened up our services to so many students that aren't on campus, aren't in the state. Our therapists are currently able to work with students in 13 different states. I think it was 12 like 2 days ago, and now it's up to 13, and that number keeps growing, which is awesome. And we offer individual, and we'll offer group therapy as well in the future in a teletherapy format. And so there's a difference of options for folks who are or will be on campus and want to drop in, want to be in person with folks, and then also our students who would like to meet with one of our therapists remotely. We also have case managers, and I think one of them's answering your questions today on one of the Q&As. I think maybe Facebook, not sure, but we have 2 case managers that are just so awesome in helping students with things like figuring out insurance, because I can say as a psychologist, I would not be super helpful in that arena, but our case managers are on it and know it and can help our students figure out their options for off-campus support. And so that's talking about places that take insurance or low cost or free options as well for students, and that is available to students in states all over the country. And so if it's a place that we don't offer teletherapy right now, our case managers can step right in and be useful to our students, parents, and families as well. We also offer Let's Talk, and that started last year and is another cool option for folks who, for whatever reason, may not want to come into the counseling center or start a counseling session. Our Let's Talk program started last year in different offices and cultural centers around campus, providing access to our therapists and psychologists throughout the day. It could be as short as a 15-minute conversation, help with problem solving and that sort of stuff. And if folks decided that it would be beneficial to have more mental health support, then of course they're welcome to get another one of our counseling services like teletherapy or in-person drop-in as well. In addition, we have consultations, and so for all of our parents and families watching, and also our staff and faculty, anyone else that really cares about the students and wants some support, wants some questions answered about how to support their duck or their ducks. We offer consultation with all of our professional staff. As the AOD coordinator or alcohol and other drugs coordinator, I talk to parents and families often about their student substance use and how they can be supportive of their students, different resources that are available on campus and off campus to help their students, and all of our professional staff are more than willing to consult with any of those groups of folks that it would be helpful for. Also, and I'll keep saying also because we have so many of these services here, on our website, if you haven't checked out our website yet, and we'll link it at the end at counseling.uoregon.edu, we offer an online self-care kit. And so that has just tons of information that students can use to take care of themselves, practice good self-care, at home, on campus, off campus, wherever they are. That online self-care kit also has well-being assessments, and so folks can check in on their mental health or their substance use and get feedback right away from those assessments on how they're doing. I said earlier, as I started this list, that we're here when you need us, and so we totally recognize that mental health and substance use and emotional well-being does not end at 5 o'clock when our office ends and our professional staff go home. So we also offer an after-hours support and crisis line, and so that's our main phone number, which will also pop up at the end here, where our students or family, anyone that's reaching out, that would reach out to our office during our open hours, can call and receive support. And then the next day or the next business day, our professional staff also check back in with those folks too. So so I said earlier that one of my roles was as the director of the Collegiate Recovery Center. So our Collegiate Recovery Center is our community and service provider for our students who are in recovery from substance use disorders on campus. And so we have a space on campus that students can use, access to specific resources, academic, but also social and community resources as well. And we also offer a pretty extensive outreach and education list of services too. And so students can and probably will interact with our outreach staff around campus or online, especially this upcoming year, and can also reach out to request specific presentations, or there's something that I really want to know about. I'm a part of this student group and we really want to have someone come and talk to us and share some knowledge about this stuff. And they would reach out to our outreach department and we'll be there where you need us. So in addition to all of those general counseling services, we honestly truly value multiculturalism at the counseling center, equity and inclusion, and we offer, or we have, identity specialties. And so we have folks on our staff who offer specific support to students from different backgrounds, different identities that we just recognize have some specialized needs. And so some of these specialties are our Black and African American student specialist, our Latinx student specialist, our undocumented student specialist, our Jewish student specialist, our international student specialist, and our gender support services specialist, including Dr. Chris Michaels, who's here with me today. And we also offer some topical and clinical specialties, including myself for alcohol and substance use, and then other staff members for interpersonal violence and trauma. And these folks that you see in the little boxes down at the bottom are those identity specialists that I mentioned on that slide right there.
All right, well, we wanted to spend some time discussing how to talk about mental health, because it's something that a lot of people may not have that much experience with. The first thing I want to mention is that it's okay to not be okay, and you've probably heard someone say that before. But I actually wanted to speak a little bit more about that, because I think there are a lot of reasons why a student might wait quite a long time before they reach out for support. And sometimes that can be quite a challenge, because at that point their concerns can be, really developed pretty far, say at the end of a term when they really needed some support to get their academics moving in the right direction, for example. So I think it's really important to start to understand those signs that you need to start thinking about reaching out to your support system more than usual. An important part of that is starting to identify your community of support, whether that's friends, whether that's resources on campus, whether that's family members, even considering creating a communication pact with family in terms of maybe how often you talk with them, or at what point you would share something more serious with your family. And actually one of our colleagues, Dr. Miko Lin, will be talking with parents and families more in August about how to support students. And finally, knowing what works best for you and knowing how to ask for it. I'm sure that my colleague Tony would agree with me. This is a conversation that we have with our clients so often. It's figuring out what support you need, who you can get it from, and then how to go about asking for it in a way that really works for you. It's an invaluable tool, something we talk about a lot, and something that is really important for you to start thinking about as well.
There are so many different ways as students that you can get involved with our UO Counseling Center. A big one is our UCC Advisory Board. And so those are students who apply and are chosen to help us out, give us a ton of feedback on how on the thoughts and experiences of students. And professionals haven't been students for a while, so it's really helpful to have that board. They're really active on campus. They, for a large in part, are the student face of the UCC at lots of events, especially outreach events. We also have a student suicide prevention team. So students who are really interested and invested in being a part of the suicide prevention team, providing trainings across campus and in the community, can join that team. We have a student social media coordinator, and in a little bit I'll flip to what our social media sites are so you can keep in contact with us. At the Collegiate Recovery Center, again for our students who are in recovery from substance use disorders, our students can become members and just be a part of the community, show up, come to meetings, attend our events. But students can also choose to be a bit more invested and be employees of the Collegiate Recovery Center and just be a bigger part of that community. Ways to stay connected. So one of those things on that website I told you about in our self-care unit is the DuckTales podcast. So that's something new that we started this year. There are already a couple of episodes up there. I think there's a really good one on sleep that's so helpful for everyone. Really speaks to that we all have mental health sort of thing. There's another one on crisis calls and another one on living with ADHD, I believe. And for social media, check out our Facebook page. We also have an Instagram page. The Instagram page in particular, just personal opinion, is really good. Our students and staff are really on top of posting some good content to those. And then also stay tuned to learn more about community interest groups that will be happening later in the summer. For all of our students that already have their DUC IDs or will be getting them in the future, if you want to learn more about how to support a friend, a bit more about your own personal coping strategies, then definitely go ahead to cognito.uoregon.edu and take that Cognito module. It walks you through, kind of looks like a video game or a computer game, walks you through how to recognize signs that a friend may need support and then how to offer that support, including if that support is saying, hey, it may be a good idea for you to talk to someone at the counseling center, because sometimes that's a good step as well. And that's us. That's our website, counseling.uoregon.edu. And that's our phone number, 541-346-3227. You can reach us during the day, during our open hours that are always posted on our website. And then also after we close, our after hours and support line, crisis and support line picks up to give you support until we wake up and get back there the next day or after the weekend.
Well, we have some time for questions, so thank you so much for that. I've been following along on the questions on my phone here, and so we've got some really great questions from students who are really engaged and really interested in knowing more and connecting with you all and your colleagues over in the Counseling Center. So we're going to go ahead and start, and in the spirit of confidentiality, I'm not going to name the students who are asking these questions, so I want to make sure that we begin first and foremost with honoring that and the work that you do to create a safe space for students. So the first question that we got in is from a student who wants to know, are there any tips you have for keeping your emotional and mental health in good shape through the rainy season? So many of our students come from really sunny climates, and coping through the rainy season is definitely a worry. So do you have any tips or tricks that you would advise for students, or that you do advise for students?
Sure, yeah. I mean, definitely the climate here is pretty unique. So in the fall and winter, it gets really dark and it is cloudy and rainy a lot of the time. And it can be pretty difficult for people to cope with. And that's often something that I will talk with students about, particularly during those months when it starts to get dark really early in the day. And so some things that we talk about are using light therapy lamps, or there are also alarm clocks that students can use in the morning that kind of gradually get light and simulate the kind of morning sunrise. So some of it is really working with your biological systems to try to make your brain a little bit happier with some more light. There are also other things that can be really helpful, like making sure that your social support system is in a really good place for those months of the year when you might be feeling a little bit more low or down than during the other months of the year. Those are some things that just, off the top of my head, I can think that I oftentimes talk with students about.
Yeah, those are great ones, Chris. And yeah, I can definitely add a couple too. Being from a really sunny place, it has been an adjustment living in Oregon, especially in the winters. Beautiful, but definitely really gray. And in addition to those really great options that Chris mentioned, that I talk to clients with as well, being prepared, anticipating that it's going to get gray, it's going to rain, it will be a little colder, especially for folks coming from down south for a while. Just mentally preparing yourself for that does quite a bit. Some of our students find it's helpful to look into supplements, in which case they'll talk to a medical provider about those, and those may be really significant to deal with some of the biological things, like Chris mentioned with the light as well. Activity is so important. My first year here, someone said to me, in Oregon, if you don't do it in the rain, you're never going to do it.
Yes.
And that was really helpful in changing my mindset, because I can definitely say where I'm from, when it starts raining, we stay inside, we watch a movie, we're not out hiking. That's completely different now. Here, being really active, even in those really dreary winter months, is really, really important physiologically, and that also speaks to what Chris was talking about, but also mentally. Keep your mind going, keep energized, keep active with people that you care about as well. And we have lots of activities that still go on in the winter months on campus and in the Eugene community.
Perfect, thank you. So one of the other questions that we had come in is students who want to know what does it look like trying to schedule a therapy appointment, and how accessible is it to get a normal therapy schedule with UO mental health resources?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I know that Tony talked a little bit about that, but I can speak a little bit more to that. Really the first place to start as a student is to come to the counseling center. Even our front desk staff can help detail some of the options and really help you select something that's going to be most helpful to you, whether that's a same-day appointment or whether that's getting scheduled for an intake with a therapist to talk more about some ongoing services, group therapy options. But I would say really the place to start is to come to the counseling center. And I would say there are definitely times of the year when we're very busy and students might have to wait a little bit for services, but generally students are able to get connected pretty quickly. And there's a lot of support through the counseling center that's available, so students are not typically left asking a lot of questions about how to get scheduled or those kinds of questions. So I would say really start by coming in.
Perfect. So one of the questions that has come in is actually around how professors deal with mental health issues, not their own, but when they encounter a student. Do they go through an overview of what it can look like in students? For example, a student with severe anxiety when doing class presentations. Like, do you do outreach and training to professors, and do professors interface with you and your team?
Oh, that is such a great question. And yes, absolutely. Our outreach and education team, and then our individual professional staff, absolutely do outreach with professors and staff on campus, or faculty and staff on campus. In fact, quite a few of our faculty and staff reach out to us and say, hey, I don't know so much about this. I want to be more supportive to my students. Come talk to us. Come tell us more about this. And we do. And so there are definitely just general sorts of meetings and outreach things that our team, our outreach team, and then our general professional staff do with faculty and staff all over campus, all through the year. there are things that happen at the beginning of the year just to get faculty prepared. If there is ever an event on campus that's particularly difficult for some students to deal with, if we have a death or something like that on campus, our faculty and staff are so quick to reach out to us and ask, how can we offer support to our students, and how can you all help us do that, or how can we help our students get connected to you? So that happens all of the time. And then I mentioned a bit earlier, but it was in a long list of all of the services that we provide. One of those are our consultations, and so our faculty and our staff at UO use those all the time. Again, they reach out to us, and it may just be a 15-minute phone call. I am worried about a student and I'd like to help them, either help them get connected to you, or what can I do in my class or in my position that would be useful to them. And so we will talk them through that process or give them more information about our resources, and that is incredibly, incredibly common.
So let's talk about that a little bit more. I know that faculty staff can consult with you, and so can parents and family members if they're concerned about their own student. But can you talk a little bit more about confidentiality? There's a question in the Q&A from a student who wants to know whether their mental health visits will be reported to their family members. Can you talk about your commitment to confidentiality for our students?
Yeah, confidentiality is a really, really significant aspect of what ultimately makes seeing a psychologist or therapist successful, because the trust that your information is going to remain private is really, really important. And that's true for the services that we provide to students. Student services are confidential. We are regulated by HIPAA, and we have a legal obligation to keep your information confidential. So parents won't be notified of whether you come and seek our services, your friends won't, your instructors won't. What you come to the counseling for in order to get support is something that is really for and about you, and so that's how it will stay. And sure, parents can call us and consult with us and express their concerns if they have questions about how to support you, and we will support them in figuring that out. But as part of that conversation, we don't talk about details of whether you've been to the counseling center or whether you're my client or anything like that.
Perfect, thank you. I also want to follow up a little bit on the faculty and staff question. Tony, you mentioned earlier the Cognito module that you're encouraging students to begin. Faculty and staff do that as well, and that's a really great way to learn how to support students or recognize where a student might be struggling. Can you talk about how you outreach to the campus around those sort of educational resources?
Yeah, absolutely. And so all of the information about Cognito is on our website, but as we rolled it out last year and as we try to get more folks informed about it, our outreach team is just so on top of getting that information out there, getting links out there for people to sign in to that. Our professional staff, all mental health professionals actually went through all of the Cognito modules as well, just to test them out. And I think I failed one, actually. No. I was acting too much like a counselor, and so went back and did it again as less of a counselor. But they're really helpful, and folks can choose the role that best fits their role on campus. There are different scenarios related to mental health, also related to substance use, which I love. I think is so helpful, because oftentimes those things mix together for students. Like Chris said, a lot of students deal with multiple things at one time. But yeah, between our online presence and our outreach team that just have feet on the ground, and definitely did last year, if anyone's interested in doing that Cognito module, our faculty, staff, students, it's available, and it's such a great resource. Sometimes we don't know how to talk to folks about mental health, and we care about our friends as students, our classmates, and then as faculty and staff, we care about our students. And that is an extra step, a little help to having those conversations or feeling a bit more confident in having those conversations. So awesome resource. Glad you asked about it.
Thank you for that. Lots of questions in the Q&A about some of the logistics. So what are the costs to see a counselor? Are there fees? Do you bill insurance? And then can students start their teletherapy if they want to before classes start this fall? So I know that's a lot wrapped in one. So let's talk first about costs and fees to use the counseling center.
Yeah, so what we usually say is that our services are at no additional cost. So there is a fee that's associated with our services, but it's wrapped into the tuition and fees that students pay the university. So if a student is enrolled, then when they come to the counseling center, they can just get started with the process. There isn't any billing or charges that are incurred for seeking out our services. Depending on the route that a student goes, there may be other fees that are associated with things, say like going out into the Eugene community and meeting with a mental health professional in private practice. Generally, then you would bill insurance and pay a copay for that. But at the counseling center specifically, there isn't a per session fee for our services.
Thank you. And can you touch a little bit on whether or not students who are new to the U of O, not currently enrolled in campus, can they begin their therapy now with you all, or do they need to wait until classes begin?
Yeah, unfortunately, students will have to wait until classes begin or until they're enrolled for the fall because our office is funded by student fees. Like Chris said, students have to enroll and pay their health fees, and then that's what covers our services for the year, for the term, for those students. And so we usually have quite a few students who are just ripping and roaring to go on day one of week one, or stop by during week of welcome. And that's completely normal, and a lot of students who know beforehand, hey, I want to get into the counseling center, I want to get services here on campus, then we are happy to see them at week of welcome and week one of classes starting.
Perfect. Thank you so much. One of the questions that came in, and I can handle part of this, but wondering if you could speak more on the LGBTQIA+ resources. In general, the student is wanting to know about the U of O's resources in general, and I want to point out to the student asking this question that we do have an interest session on this next Friday afternoon at 3:30, and so I do want to make sure that you tune in. We actually have an expert on campus in the Dean of Students office whose whole job is to develop resources and networks with students, but I know the Counseling Center also has support for LGBTQIA+ students, and so can you speak a little bit more specifically about that?
Yeah, definitely. I would say in general, as a counseling center, we are affirming and supportive of the LGBTQIA+ community, and all of our staff are very affirming and competent to provide services to members of the community. We also offer some identity-specific services. Like I mentioned, I'm a co-coordinator of the Gender Support Services team for our trans and gender expansive students. And generally, there are often a number of identity-based support groups that are run as part of our services as well. So we have run like an LGBTQQ support group, trans and gender expansive identity support group, and those are places for students to come together in a confidential space to process concerns and needs that are really specific to the community and identity.
Thank you. So we have lots of questions regarding diverse abilities and how you work with students. Do you specialize in people with intellectual disabilities such as autism and Down syndrome? Are there resources for people with ADHD or other neurodivergent disorders such as coaching? What kinds of resources do you provide to students who are presenting with these factors in their daily life? How do you support them?
So I would say I have seen clients that have disclosed that they're on the autism spectrum. different ability statuses. I would say yes, in general, we provide services to all students, though sometimes there are needs that students have that may require more specialty, more focus. And so in those cases, we would absolutely help students get connected to those resources. An example that I can think of is if a student is concerned that they may have ADHD. It's an example that you mentioned. Oftentimes what we will do, and our case managers will do, is help a student get supported in getting connected to a resource where they can get an assessment to really kind of figure out if they have ADHD. And so we provide a lot of support when students are needing more specific resources that we may not offer specifically, if that makes sense.
Yep, absolutely. We also partner and work really closely with our Accessible Education Center on campus. And so they have specialized resources for students that may be on the autism spectrum or students that have ADHD or some of the other things that you mentioned. And so we communicate and consult with them very often, of course within the bounds of confidentiality, and help, as Chris said, facilitate as many resources and support as we can for those students. So that's a very important partner that we have on campus to help our students.
Thank you for that. I do want to point out, as Tony mentioned, the AEC, the Accessible Education Center, is one of their partners on campus. We did do a presentation last Friday. That's available on our YouTube channel, Oregon Welcome. You can watch that and get connected with the staff at the AEC. Also the services in the health center, which are deeply connected to the work that Tony and Chris do. There's a lot of collaboration between those offices, and so please make sure that you revisit some of the programs that we did last week to learn more about how we work together to help individual students and make sure that we can provide the right kinds of support. That's all the time that we have today. I want to thank you for those of you who are joining us. For more information about this and any introduction presentation, I hope that you will visit our website at orientation.uoregon.edu. You can also email us your questions at orientation@uoregon.edu or text us at 541-346-1159. I would also encourage you to tune in next Friday to our Flock Talk episode. We actually will talk to some of Tony and Chris's colleagues in the Counseling Center and do a little deeper dive into the subject of resilience for students. So I hope that you'll tune into that next Friday. You can find that on flocktalk.uoregon.edu or any of your favorite podcast platforms. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. And to you, Tony and Chris, thank you for being here for our new Ducks.
Yeah, thanks for spending time with us today.